As I said in the clip for chapter 4, this chapter 5 is the second and final in the second part of the book, which looks at the way in which we do research in audiovisual translation. And whereas chapter 4 focused on the theoretical frameworks that have informed research in this field, chapter 5 looks at the main research methods that have been used to facilitate research in audiovisual translation. So obviously this is a chapter that deals with the practicalities of conducting audiovisual translation research, that looks at the ways in which different scholars have tried to operationalize the way in which the interrogation of data had to be done depending on the ultimate goal of the research project. As was also the case in the previous chapter, where I did an overview of audiovisual translation models, this critique that I provide here, critique of the main research methods, is not totally comprehensive, it's not an exhaustive one, and I think that there are understandable reasons for that to be so. Again, it would be impossible to do that within the limitations of a book chapter. But most importantly, I think that what any reader is interested in actually is finding out what is the rationale that has informed the application of a given method, what has been achieved using that method, and what can hopefully be achieved over the next years as technologies develop, and perhaps even more significantly, how different research methods can be used concurrently in such a way that the insights that you get from one can complement insights that you get from through the application of another method. I've divided this chapter into 4 major sections. The first one looks at observational methods. So these are methods that tend to focus on the description of perceptual and cognitive aspects of audiovisual translation and even audiovisual spectatorship. So here I do a critique of studies that examine how viewers process information in a range of screen-based environments, and give many examples of specific research methods, with eye tracking, for example, being one of the ones that receives more attention in this section. The second major section is interactionist methods. So interactionist methods have to do with the use of interviews and questionnaires, for example, to get to know more about, on the one hand, why translators did the things they did, and also what people who use translated texts think about the texts that they consume, that they use, that are made available to them. So one of the issues that I want to foreground rather in relation to interactionist methods is the issue of reception in audiovisual translation, which is of course a very topical concern for scholars in the field. The third section has to do with documentary methods, which is a type of methods which is experiencing very exciting sort of revolution, changes driven by, again, technological development. So documentary methods in the context of audiovisual translation have taken the form normally of archival methods. So for example, scholars who wanted to look at how the translation of certain audiovisual texts have been censored, would go to archives, they would locate material, they would inspect it, and interpret the documentary evidence to reach their conclusions. Thanks to technological developments now, we can find also documentary research being done as part of what authors are calling ethnographic methodologies. In other words, researchers can now become immersed and participate in online translation communities, so for example a Fanshaben community, and then they can access the archive of the interaction that has taken place between members of that Fanshaben community for years in order to try to gain a better understanding of the way in which those communities are structured and work. The fourth and last big section of this chapter is corpus-based methods. Whereas in chapter 4 I looked at corpora as something that could potentially provide us with a better insight of the differences between the ways in which, for example, dubbed language and natural or non-translated language work. In this chapter I deal with corpora as a tool that can help us understand the nature of audiovisual translation in a range of other ways. So I look at how notions of parallel and comparable corpora can be of relevance to research in audiovisual translation, and I focus particularly on multimodal corpora, which obviously allow us to understand much better and in a much more systematic way the connections between the way in which audiovisual translators mediate language and a range of other meaning-making resources that are also being conveyed to the viewer through the screen. Ultimately, I think that what emerges more clearly in this chapter is that currently it is what you may remember from my clip on chapter 1, is the extent to which what I call assistive forms of audiovisual translation, such as audio description or subtitles for the art of hearing, are driving the process of methodological innovation in the field of audiovisual translation.